Hello, this presentation is about managerial planning and decision making in your course, Business Management. The chapter outline here is composed of basics of planning, levels of planning, managerial planning process, types of plans, decision-making process, and decision models. Planning is simply, for a business organization, designing and shaping the future. In other words, it is the process of determining where to go in the future, and also answering the questions where, what, when, by who, and how. Planning process is intertwined with effectiveness and efficiency. As you well know by now, effectiveness is the extent to the achievement of determined goals, whereas efficiency is how good the organization uses its resources. Another topic in this chapter is about levels of planning. Mainly, there are three types of and levels of planning in business organizations. The first one is the long-term planning, which we also name as strategic planning. Other one is medium and also short-term planning. As you see in this chart, different types of plans, different levels of plans are being shaped and launched at different levels of an organizational hierarchy. For example, long-term and strategic plans are being decided at the highest level of a business organization, whereas, for example, short-term almost instant or daily plans are being determined at the lower levels of an organizational hierarchy. Managerial planning process is the process for managers where they decide what to do, when, and where to do. And because it's a process, it has some stages. Which is important for managers not to be missing one of the stages. It is important that this managerial planning process is being launched in a sequence, which is the first one is setting the goals and objectives, which will differ from one business organization to another, which will differ from one type of organization to another. The second stage is identifying resources that are necessary for fulfilling these goals and objectives. The following step is determining the action plans. In fact, which is related to the resources as well. Based on the resources, managers will be deciding which alternative is the best or the most suitable one in order to attaining the goals determined in the first stage. And the following step will be implementing and testing the determined alternatives, the plans. If necessary, the modification and adjustment of plans are also another activity by managers. Other than the levels of plans, there are different types of plans as well. And types of plans are categorized in three main groups, which are strategic plans, tactical plans, and operational plans. Remember the previous information about levels of plans. And types of plans are being also associated with levels of plans as well. Because, for example, strategic plans which are also long-term plans, are being made by top administration or top-level managers, whereas operational plans are being made and the decisions are made by the first-level managers in a hierarchical organization of businesses. Let's look at some characteristics of the types of plans here. Strategic plans have the broadest scope, which affects the entire organization. Whereas strategic plans at the same time, due to its scope, are the most complicated ones. They're general because they need to cover the whole organization, all departments, all levels of the hierarchy in a business organization. Tactical plans, on the other hand, are shorter term plans. And these plans are also can be mentioned as functional plans, because tactical plans regarding the strategic plans in a way serve and support the strategic plans. Tactical plans are made by departments, units, or divisions in a business organization. For example, marketing plans supporting the overall strategic plan of an organization, or financial plans are being made and decided and shaped in divisions of a business organization. Operational plans are shorter term and narrower plans. In fact, as it is displayed here, it is the narrowest type of plans. They're least complex. They focus on tasks and jobs, and they focus on specific activities as well. Example to operational plans is a budget. A budget, as you know, is a plan that deploys the overall organizational resources to certain divisions, departments, or projects as it is necessary. Decision-making process is one of the critical topics for a manager, because managing is simply decision-making itself. So no matter what the level is, what the type is, or what the term is, the managers always make decisions. Managing job is as a decision-making job. So what is this process? This process is identifying a problem or an opportunity in the market and selecting among available alternatives to solve the problem or to improve the case or capitalize on the opportunity or being able to use the opportunity in a market. Decision-making alternatives do change from one type of decision to another, from one set of circumstances to another. Sometimes a manager will have only one alternative to solve an issue or to bring a solution to a problem. And sometimes there will be more than one alternative. And this process is also very similar to the managerial planning process. In fact, we at usual times, we think of the planning process and the decision-making process as processes being very parallel to one another, because each planning process covers and includes a decision. So they're very much similar to one another. They interact with one another. And the decision-making process, having said that, similar to the planning process, starts with identifying the decision situation. Is there a problem? Is there a negative situation, an opportunity, a threat, a risk in the market, for example? And then developing the decision criteria. Mostly this stage is based on resources. What is our criteria for being able to make the best decision? And based on the resources and the criteria, the alternatives are being generated. as I mentioned before, which will change from one situation to another, from one type of market or environmental set of factors to another. And the next stage will be evaluating these alternatives, again, based on the environmental realities, environmental developments, and the resources that the business organization can utilize. Then the next step will be implementing the decision and then controlling the results. If the decision was the right one, or decisions overall were the right ones or not, are they being able to be adaptive to the environmental changes or not, which we name as monitoring, the monitoring stage, and evaluating the results. Of course, the decision-making process will be implemented or applied by different types of managers at different levels. And the decision-making process will change from one perspective to another. For example, one decision-making process will be a participative one. We'll ask the ideas and opinions and insights of the related units or individuals or employees in a business organization, whereas another model or another manager will be preferring a more autocratic type of decision-making process. So it really depends on the situation, on the manager or the leader who is making the decision. But generally, there are the decision-making environment, which we also mention as decision models, are grouped in three main categories. One is the rational model of decision making, which we can also correspond with the plain decision making process, which we just mentioned in the previous slide. That's the plain decision making model. The other one is the bounded rationality model of decision making, which in fact challenges the rational model of decision making. And the challenge here is based on the argument of the decision making environment changing from one to another, for example, business organization or market. And bounded rationality model argues and defends that the managers, the decision-making environments, they're all constrained, and they have constraints, and they're restricted, and they're limited based on the ideas, the knowledge, the experience, and overall equipment of a manager, as well as the environmental factors. So it won't be a very plain decision-making process. This is what the bounded rationality model argues about. Another decision-making model is the intuitive decision-making, which is based on the individual, the manager, or the leader who is making the decision based on their own experiences and personalities and personal choices.